Barbour jackets are incredible. They are versatile, they're stylish, they last a really long time. But one thing that Barbour jackets are not is warm. The problem for Barbour coats lover, like I am and like many of you are, is that we want to be able to use our Barbour coats also during the winter. I live in Chicago with temperatures that regularly go towards 0.5 Fahrenheit, so like minus 20 Celsius. So today I'm gonna give you 6 methods to make your Barbour coat much warmer. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of each method. I'm also going to talk about the climate factors, how the different body types affect the viability of one method versus the others. And I'm going to rank these methods from my least favorite to my most favorite. And stick around because towards the end, I'm also gonna give you a few tips to make your Barbour coat much warmer without investing any money. The first method to make your Barbour warmer is to use the fleece liner that Barbour will sell you separately for $150. This zip-in liner will zip into the coat as long as the coat is not too old, because Barbour changed the way the zip-in liner zips to the coats at a certain point in time. But as long as you have a recent coat, say around 2010, you will be able to use the zip-in liner that Barbour sells. Now, there are several advantages to using this solution. First of all, the zip-in liner is perfectly integrated with the jacket. What that means is that you don't have to worry about finding the second jacket or a second layer. It's constantly attached to the jacket. It is also very easy to put it on and off. You don't have to fight two coats, which is sometimes the case when you're trying to layer using things that do not match. So there is that advantage. And the other big advantage is that it does not affect the versatility of your Barbour coat. Because, for instance, if you own a Barbour Beaufort or a Border and you like to wear those coats over a suit or a sport coat, the integrated liner will not affect your ability to do so. So that's a big advantage. But the Barbour zip-in liner also has a lot of problems. First of all, it's just not very warm. And that's the main thing for me, because again, I live in a place where you need to take winter seriously, with temperatures sometimes well below minus 20 Celsius. The Barbour fleece vest is just not warm enough to help me with this temperature. And on top of that, it also costs an abysmal amount of money. It costs $150. It's made of a synthetic material manufactured in countries with cheap labor. I just think that Barbour here is taking advantage of us customers. And so I'm really reluctant to give my money for that. Third point is that the vest is really not versatile because it is meant to be worn only under your Barbour coat. So of course you can wear it under other coats if you want, but there are better alternatives for that, definitely cheaper and warmer alternatives. And finally, if you own more than one Barbour coat, like I do, it's going to be annoying to unzip and zip the liner into multiple jackets every time, unless you buy more than one of these zip-in liners. But again, for $150, I don't think so. And by the way, if you have made it this far into the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I talk about coats and jackets on a weekly basis. And if this is something that interests you, subscribing costs you nothing, but it helps me a lot. I would say the zip-in liner is best for people who use their Barbour often over a sport coat or a suit. And so they want an integrated coat that they don't have to worry about. It is also best for people who live in moderate climates like the UK, Northern Italy, France. However, it's definitely the worst option for people who live in very cold climates. To me, the Barbour zip-in liner is the worst way to make your Barbour warm. There are definitely methods that are both warmer and cheaper. A very cheap alternative to the Barbour zip-in liner is to use any fleece vest, like this one that I bought at REI for less than $30. A fleece vest like this has several advantages. First of all, you can use it under multiple coats, multiple jackets, not only Barbour. You can also use it on its own. So it is definitely more versatile than the Barbour zip-in liner. It also is much cheaper, and the warm to dollar ratio is definitely better on this one. especially if you take a much thicker vest compared to the one I have on right now. Another advantage is that it doesn't constrict you at all, so you can actually move around very easily as with the Barbour Zip In Liner. Of course, the fleece vest comes with a few disadvantages. First of all, it's not integrated. So what it means is that every time you put it on or off, you need to make sure that you're taking on your two coats. And this can sometimes be very annoying, especially because now you have to be careful not to lose the two jackets because they're not connected. So especially if you're going to a restaurant or a bar and you want to put your coat down, you have to be a little more careful. Also, the big disadvantage is that the look is not cohesive. You can definitely see the vest poking out of the collar area. The jacket becomes immediately more casual. It does not look as sharp, as stylish as with the Zip In Liner from Barbour. In terms of warmth, although this is similar to the Zip In Liner that Barbour sells you, it is not as warm as other options that I'm about to show you. All in all, the fleece vest is best for people who live in a moderate climate again, like the UK, Northern Italy, France, the Pacific Northwest perhaps. And it's definitely one of the worst options if you live in a very cold climate or if you need to wear your Barbour over a sport coat or a suit, because the vest will annoy you when you put it on and off. Definitely not the best option. I still think that it's much better than the Barbour Zip In Liner because it's cheaper and the warm to dollar ratio is definitely better. But let me show you a couple of better options. The third method to make your Barbour coat warmer is to use a full fleece jacket, like the one I'm wearing right now from Eddie Bauer, which I paid $60 for. This method has several advantages. First of all, it provides a much better ratio in terms of warmth to dollar because the jacket is not as expensive as the Zip In Liner, and yet it is much warmer. It is also a much more versatile option because you will be using this jacket independently, or you can use it under other jackets that you own to make them warmer. Regardless, this is a much more versatile option than the previous two. Now, there are also a few disadvantages to this method. First of all, it adds some bulk and a feeling of restrictiveness to your shoulders and arms. Now, this might be a very me problem because of the way I'm built, but you will feel more restricted compared to wearing the Zip In Liner or the vest. Depending on where you live, this might be overkill already, because if you live in a very warm climate, the warmth that comes from a jacket like this is a lot. Also, using a jacket like this under your Barbour will limit the versatility of the Barbour itself. Because, for instance, you won't be able to wear it over a sport coat anymore. And definitely the fleece jacket changes the look and the vibe of the coat, especially if you're using bright colors or colors that are very different from your Barbour coat. In this case, I'm using a green under my green Barbour, so in a way it is muted, but you can definitely see that it's not an integrated option. The coat is not as stylish as it was, and if that's important for you, that's definitely something to think about. So who should look at a full fleece jacket like this to make their Barbour warmer? Definitely somebody who lives in a colder climate. So we're talking about Scandinavia, Germany, certain part of the UK, certain part of the US, like the Midwest or the Northeast. People who are not bothered by the constriction coming from a jacket like this. Perhaps people who are slimmer than me, and people who use their Barbour coats mostly with casual attire, because it will be very difficult for you to dress up a jacket with a fleece jacket underneath. This is probably the worst method for somebody who has big arms or big shoulders, because you will feel restricted. And it's, again, not ideal for somebody who wants to use their Barbour coat over a sport coat or a suit. The fourth method to make your Barbour warmer is to use a down jacket, like the one I'm wearing now. The down jacket options offers a lot of advantages. First of all, the down jacket is extremely warm. In terms of warmth to price ratio, this is probably the best option. It is also extremely light and extremely compact. It can really be packed down very small. And it works beautifully under the Barbour coat if you take a muted color that will kind of disappear under the Barbour, and if you take a slim profile one. Down jackets are also made of materials which will slide beautifully under your Barbour jacket, making it very easy to put it on and off. Case in point, look at how easy it is to wear it over a down jacket. The down coat is also extremely versatile because now you have another jacket that you can use by itself pretty much every day of winter, or as a layer under many other things. Perhaps a Gore-Tex jacket, perhaps another wool jacket. All of this for a price which is still less than the Barbour Zip In Liner, because a jacket like the one I'm wearing right now will cost around $150 if you're going with really nice brands. Now, the down jacket option is not perfect though, because it has a few problems. First of all, down compresses under weight and it loses its ability to insulate. What does it mean in this case? It means that my Barbour coat over my down jacket is actually reducing the loft of my down coat, making it less capable of insulating me from the cold. The way that insulation in a down jacket works is that the air which is trapped between the feathers is what keeps me insulated from the outside cold. If I compress that air, like I'm doing now with the weight of the Barbour coat, I am losing some of the insulation abilities of the down jacket. Nothing dramatic, I would say, but definitely something to keep in mind if you live in a very cold climate. The second really big problem with the down jacket option is that down is pretty useless in terms of insulation once it gets wet. And we all know that a Barbour coat is not really waterproof. No matter what Barbour tells you, we all know that wax cotton is not waterproof. It's not a question of if the water will seep through, it is a question of when. So when you're wearing your Barbour coat with a down jacket and you're caught in a very, very big storm with a lot of rain, at a certain point that water will go through your Barbour coat and will start ruining the insulation ability of the down coat. So something to keep in mind if you're living in a place where winters are very cold and very wet. Another disadvantage compared to other options is that it is way more expensive than, for instance, a fleece coat or a fleece vest, but not as expensive as the Barbour Zip In Liner. The other disadvantage of the down option is that you can't really wear it over a sport coat or a suit because the down jacket will not sit over a suit or a sport coat comfortably unless you take a very bulky down jacket, and then you're losing the seamless integration with the Barbour jacket. And speaking of seamless integration, I actually misspoke because there isn't a seamless integration, which is also another problem with the down jacket option. You're still dealing with two separate jackets, so every time you go out and you want to take it off and put it back on, you're dealing with two jackets, which sometimes can be really annoying. So who is the down jacket option best for? It's definitely best for people who live in very cold climates, like the Midwest, where I live, the Northeast, Scandinavia, very cold parts of Germany and the UK. And it's also probably ideal for a person who has an active lifestyle where a down jacket would complement his or her activities. The down jacket option is also the worst for somebody who lives in a very wet climate because, as I said, once the down is wet, it loses its insulation abilities. The fifth method to make your Barbour warmer is to use a synthetic puffer. A synthetic jacket like the down jacket that I was wearing before is actually a great option for a number of reasons. First of all, it's much cheaper than down, which means that the price to warmth ratio is really very good. Secondly, synthetic insulation does not have the problems that down has when it gets wet. It will still protect you from the cold, it will still insulate you even once it's wet. In terms of versatility, a good synthetic puffer is as versatile as a down jacket. You will use it as a standalone jacket pretty much every day in winter if you want, and you can use it also under any other coat, any other Gore-Tex shell that you have. So again, an extremely versatile option. In terms of warmth to weight ratio, it is definitely not as good as a down puffer, but it's still a very good option, providing you a lot of warmth. Now, synthetic insulation comes also with some disadvantages. For me, the biggest disadvantage is that I don't like the idea of having synthetic insulation. But I do recognize that it's a great alternative to down depending on where you live. And as long as you are not bothered by the fact that it's a synthetic plastic material, then you're good to go. It is not seamlessly integrated, same as the down jacket and pretty much every other method which is not the Zip In Liner. It will also not be great for people who use their Barbour coats over their sport coats or their suits. I would say that the synthetic insulation option to make your Barbour warmer is ideal for people who live in very cold climates. Again, Midwest, Northeast of the United States, Scandinavia, Germany, certain parts of the UK. It's definitely the best if you live in a place where it rains a lot. I would pick synthetic insulation over down if you live in an area where it rains a lot, so like the UK. But it's not a good method if, again, you're wearing your Barbour coats over a suit or a sport coat. And now the final method to make your Barbour warmer, the heated vest. Now the heated vest has a lot going for it. First of all, it is by far the warmest options among all of those that I've mentioned. Secondly, you decide how warm you want to be. At the push of a button, you can adjust the warm setting from high to low on pretty much any heated vest that you own. It is definitely amazing for very cold climates like the one I live in. I have used the heated vest with temperatures way below minus 10 Celsius, so like 10, 15 Fahrenheit, and I was toasty as one can be in those situations, of course. It is also a very versatile item. You can also wear it on its own. You can wear it under pretty much any other jackets that you own, which is what I am doing in particular. Depending on the model that you buy, it may integrate better or worse with the color of your Barbour, but you should be able to find something that almost disappears under your Barbour. Now, there are a few cons of using a heated vest under a Barbour. The biggest one is that the heat from the vest can actually melt the wax. So I would definitely recommend not to use the highest settings when you use the heated vest, but use the low or the medium. You need to make sure that the heat is not high enough as to melt the wax. The other disadvantage is that the battery pack that pretty much every heated vest has, no matter what the brand is, will upset you probably and will annoy you. For instance, in this case, my battery pack is right here and it doesn't bother me a lot, but I can feel it. So depending on how particular you are about these things, it may or may not be a thing for you. As many other options that I've talked about, again, this is not fully integrated. So again, you're wearing two separate pieces of gear. And the heated vest is one of the heaviest because of the battery pack. So again, when you're going out and you want to take it off, you need to make sure that you are keeping the two jackets together. And now you're dealing with something that it's also a little heavier. Depending on the color you're going to go with, it will stand out a lot and it will turn your Barbour again into a somewhat less stylish piece of gear. But I think that if you're living in a climate where the temperatures go as low as they go where I live, you definitely will have to make compromises between looking super stylish and being actually warm. Who is the heated vest method best for? It is best for people who live in very harsh climates. Again, Chicago, Scandinavia, certain parts of the US Northeast, certain parts of Japan. Definitely not if you're living in Italy or south of France or certain parts of the UK. This will be overkill. It is also very good if you are somebody who runs very cold, no matter where you live. This is probably the worst options for somebody who live, though, in very warm climates, and for somebody who does not want to take care of the battery. There is some upkeep in owning a heated vest. You need to always make sure that the batteries are charged, or else you will have no heat. And some people just don't like that. It's just another thing to think about. Now, my personal ranking of methods to make your Barbour warmer, from the worst to the best. Number 6, I put definitely the Barbour Zip In Liner. I think it's the worst system, and it's overpriced and absolutely useless. In 5th place, I put the Fleece vest. Very cheap, as warm as the zip-in vest, but not very warm. The Fleece jacket, it's an okay option. It's very bulky. It limits your ability to move around. It is very warm, but too casual for me. Number 3, I put the synthetic puffer, just because I don't like synthetic material and I don't live in a place where rain is really my main concern. My second favorite methods of making my Barbour warmer is definitely a down jacket. Very warm, very easy to put on and off, and extremely versatile. And my favorite method to make your Barbour warmer is definitely the heated vest, as long as you keep it on medium and you pay attention not to melt the wax. Now, a couple of considerations concerning body type. If you're slim or average build, pretty much you can use any of the methods I mentioned before. All of them will work beautifully. But if you're a little overweight or you're very muscular, you may want to stay away from, for instance, the fleece jacket and look instead really at the heated vest or the fleece vest so that you're not bothered in your movements. If you have a shorter torso, I would say pay attention to the length of whatever method you're choosing, because some of them may be longer than others and they may do peekaboo from under your Barbour coats. So in that case, probably the fleece vest or the Barbour Zip In Liner might work best for you. A couple of also climate considerations. If you're living in a place which is extremely cold and dry, like the Midwest, Canada, Scandinavia, Northern Japan, certain parts of Germany, my recommendations for you would be heated vest, down, and synthetic puffers. Down is fine in this case because humidity is not your main concern. If you're living in a place which is cold but very wet, like the UK or the Pacific Northwest, I would look more into the synthetic puffer than the heated vest, definitely not the down jacket. Because in this case, your main issue is the wetness coming from the rain, and down should not be one of your options. If you live in a place with milder winters, like Italy, Spain, France, certain parts of the UK, certain parts of Germany, you definitely want to look instead at the Barbour Zip-In vest. I know I said I don't like it, but I don't like it because of the place I live. When I lived in Italy, I used to have one. Because in your case, you're really not dealing with extremely harsh conditions, and the Barbour Zip-In vest could actually work. Now, let me also give you a couple of tips to make your Barbour warmer at zero cost. First of all, make sure to wear something over your head. Your head plays a big role in making you feel warm or hot. So a big hat like the one I'm wearing right now from Fjallraven is definitely a good thing to have. Make sure you're trapping the heat of your body around your neck. So wear a scarf or wear like a neck roll like the one I'm wearing so that the heat will actually stay inside. In fact, I'm actually starting to sweat already. Wear gloves that seal the sleeves of your Barbour. In this case, I'm wearing a Bedale, which has the inner knit cuffs. So right now, there is no heat coming out from my wrist areas. Make sure that you're wearing a merino base layers. Make sure you're wearing very thick sweaters like an Aran sweaters or something very warm like cashmere that will provide very good insulation without a lot of bulk. So this was my full breakdown of how to make your Barbour warmer. I hope that at least a couple of these methods will come useful for you. Please let me know in the comments if you already use one of these methods or if you think that I should have mentioned another method. And please don't forget to like and subscribe because, as I said, it costs you nothing and it helps me a lot.